Okay, so today we are unboxing the Dungeons & Dragons 50th Anniversary Collection from WizKids. We were sent a brick and some other goodies that we're going to just kind of open up and see what we get. Now, the whole thing is this collection is celebrating 1E monsters and their 5E monster counterparts. So there's kind of a one-to-one for all of these monsters. You're going to see like a 5E version and then a 1E version of a lot of them. Okay, let's open this up. Let's see what we got. We got the Vecna set here. Okay, ooh, we got a Flail snail. Awesome. This is the 1 edition. That's why it looks different from the one I have. Flail snails are these earth-based creatures that were highly sought out by hunters due to they produce a number of valuable resources. Their body parts and their colorful shell could be used to produce several protective magical items. Now, flail snails had between 4 to 6 tentacles, typically 5, that were kept in constant motion, swaying slowly if the creature was calm or fast if it was agitated. They possess very colorful, scintillating shells that have an anti-magic properties. These kept growing as the creatures aged and could grow clockwise or counterclockwise. Okay, next up we got this little armor guy. What do we got? Okay, so this is the Paladin Hell, which is fun. This is a throwback to Paladin Hell, which is an adventure published in like 1989, where a bunch of people come together to celebrate this paladin. So everyone is attending this funeral for this illustrious paladin, but it's interrupted when the temple and everyone is then suddenly teleported to the plane of the 9 hells, and the player characters then must locate the temple and return it to its proper place. It's a kind of a classic old adventure. And it's funny too, you can see like the shields upside down, and this is the same kind of paladin or art from the cover of that old adventure as well. Okay, so this is the Shadow Demon, and I really like the sculpt on this. This is the 5e Shadow Demon. There's 2. They have a 1e and a 5e in this set. So Shadow Demons, also called Shadow Fiends, were a product of a demon whose essence could not like properly reform in the abyss. So normally if a demon is killed on the material plane, they just come back to the abyss, but there are problems sometimes of maybe certain magic, whatever. But they're trapped in the form of like a silhouette of their previous selves. Now, the physical form of a shadow demon was normally vague and undefined, as it was often confused. The reasoning behind that is like the contours of it would get like lost in the shadows. They definitely have like a wraith or shadow look to them, but they are totally different creatures. But almost all of them have that same humanoid figure with bat-like wings, ink talons, and a lower half that kind of like fades into nothingness. Okay, next up. Okay, that looks like a gnoll. Yeah, okay, so here we have a gnoll. I think this is a 5e gnoll. This is kind of basic. Of course, this is like a classic you'd want in your set. Gnolls, I mean, like they're perfect little minion villains to throw at your players. And if you're not familiar with gnolls, they're like these feral hyena-headed humanoids. They're like, they attack without warning. They are really savage creatures. They don't have a lot of fear, so they usually kind of fight till they're dead, and they like instigate fights. Okay, what do we got here? Let's open up this other box. Oh, we got something big in here. Oh my goodness, look at this. This is an awesome sculpt. This is a 1E Pit Fiend. I love it. Now, Pit Fiends are the undisputed lords of most other devils. Pit Fiends attend the Archdukes and Archduchess of the 9 hells and carry out their wishes. These are like mighty devils. They're the general of the 9 hells. They are leading the infernal legions into battle, but they do have this inflated sense of superiority and entitlement. Pit Fiends form a grotesque atrocity in the infernal realm. These domineering and manipulative tyrants conspire to eliminate anything that stands between them and their desires, even as they negotiate the convoluted and dangerous politics of the 9 hells. Now, a Pit Fiend is a hulking monster. It's got a whip-like tail, enormous wings that kind of wrap around its cloak, armored scales that cover its body, and a fanged maw that drips venom that can lay the mightiest mortal creatures low. They're fearless in battle. Pit Fiends take on the most powerful foes in single combat. They constantly want to demonstrate their supremacy and an arrogance that prevents them from acknowledging any chance that they actually could be defeated. This is a great call out if you've ever played Baldur's Gate 3, but the thing with the 1E one, it doesn't have the tail that the 5E description does, which is really interesting. All right, what else we got next? We got a, oh, this looks like a wizard. Oh, this is Mordenkainen. He is one of the NPCs in Dungeons & Dragons that came out from Gary Gygax's like home group. This is like one of his friends, I believe. Mordenkainen was this prolific archmage in the Forgotten Realms from the world of Oerth. I think that's how you pronounce it. And he was responsible for many of the most powerful spells and the useful spells. In fact, these spells were invented by the player and then adapted into the game by Gary Gygax. Mordenkainen was typically stubborn, and he was one who did not suffer fools gladly, but he was considered really difficult to work with. Now, Mordenkainen ended up suffering from madness, and he convinced that his enemies were everywhere, and he was constantly being watched by evil agents. Now, it actually might be Ed Greenwood where these characters originally came from, but it might be Gary Gygax. But I do know that there was like this illustration of Elminster and Mordenkainen in Ed Greenwood's living room, and Ed was like hiding inside of the suit of armor, like listening to them talk. Ed Green being the creator of the Forgotten Realms. And you can see here there's a dog, and that's because there's a spell, Mordenkainen's Faithful Hound, which is what kind of alludes in the miniature, which I kind of love. All right, next up, let's see what we got here. Oh, this looks like 1E elf. Yes, the 1E elf. Okay, so what's really funny about elves in 1E is they were a class and a race in 1E. So there was like fighting man, magic user, a healer or cleric, a priest. But elf was another class that was like a mix between fighter and a magic user. And they got this kind of very like old school style to it. I love it. And I kind of love the pose too of the upward shield that kind of has the little cutout there that you can draw your sword through. And of course, like the little feathers on the helm. Okay, we got a bugbear, 5e bugbear. So bugbears are hairy goblinoids born for battle and mayhem. They survive by raiding and hunting, but they are fond of setting ambushes and fleeing when outmatched. Bugbears are definitely like a really tactical goblinoid fighter. Bugbears are usually often found with their cousins, which is hobgoblins and goblins. Besides the fact that bugbears are massive and really intimidating, they're all about stealth. They do not like to not have the edge of surprise on their prey. They're really fond of setting ambushes, and they will flee when outmatched. They're pretty smart when it comes to like their tactics. What's said is they're dependable mercenaries as long as they're supplied with food, drink, and treasure. But a bugbear forgets a bond when its life is on the line. So, and also the text says that a wounded bugbear might be left behind to let the rest of the band escape. I don't know if that's like an honorable thing of like, you go without me, I'll be the one that they get, or if it's kind of like leave him behind to slow them down. It seems kind of cutthroat. But I love this like yellow fur. They've really leaned in the kind of classic bugbear look. I've seen a lot of others that have more like brown fur and they kind of look more bearish in like their coloring. And I really like how this mini has leaned into that yellow bugbear look. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Okay, this is Lolth. This is the spider goddess herself. This has been like an aspect of Lolth. Lolth is the queen of the spiders, also known as queen of the demon web pits. In a lot of the R.A. Salvatore book, she is one of the most influential goddesses of like the dark elf pantheon. Now, Lolth was originally created for the World of Greyhawk campaign setting, but then later appeared in the Forgotten Realms setting and is kind of a member of the default pantheon of D&D gods. Now, Lolth is a demon lord. This is an evil goddess. She's all about cruelty, domination, deceit. She has ears everywhere, and she kind of wants to establish herself as the foremost deity. She likes to keep everyone under the thumb by creating a society in which only the strong survive, and that's kind of most of the drow societies that follow the teachings of Lolth are very survival of the fittest. But this is a really cool sculpt. There's not a lot of Lolth minis out there because she is a goddess, but I love this. I know this is gonna freak me out later when I go to look at my mini walls and I see this giant spider looking at me. Okay, what do we got here? We got, what is this? This is, it's like a little, that looks like a dragon boat. It's just a skeleton knight. Okay, great, I love it. I like that he has like new armor too, like he's a fresh skeleton knight. This is a pretty good paint job too for such a small mini. And I like that it has this tiny little neck. Usually all the skeletons are not other types of humanoids, usually just humans. So I kind of like that we have like a little dragon one. Okay, what else we got here? Oh, who's this guy? Oh, okay, so this is Mordenkainen, but this is the 1E version of Mordenkainen. That's very cool. I do like the use of magic shown on this one. This is a killer mini for any kind of one who's looking to do like a wizard or sorcerer, or look for like an older guy. He's got a little gray in that beard too. Okay, look at this. A lemur? A lemur? Let's see, how do we say this?
Lemur.
A lemur arises when a mortal soul is twisted by evil and banished to the 9 hells for eternity. The lowest type of devil. Lemurs are repugnant, shapeless creatures doomed to suffer torment until they're promoted to a higher form of devil, commonly an imp. That sucks. You start off as just this pile of the fleshy goop, and you get promoted to be an imp. Ugh. They kind of resemble molten mass of flesh with this vaguely humanoid head and torso, a permanent expression of anguish twisting across its face, and its feeble mouth babbling even though it can't actually speak. And here's the thing, if this creature dies in hell, it actually just comes back in hell. The only way to truly kill this creature is with holy water and being killed by a good line creature. So if a paladin kills this and then casts bless on its remains or sprinkle holy water, then it won't even come back ever again. But normally these things just continue to respawn. Now, they're not incredibly strong. They have like a really weak armor class. They don't move very fast. They have very little hit points, but they are immune to fire and poison, and they're resistant to cold. So they're tough little cookies, if you will. Look at this gross little flesh guy. Ugh. Let's open up this next box. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, it's a dwarf. I think it's a dwarf. Is this a gnome? No, yes, this is a dwarf. This is a 1E dwarf. Okay, so dwarves also used to be their own playable class, I believe, in 1981 in the basic set. But in 1976 supplement of Greyhawk, dwarves were allowed to play as thieves without level restrictions. However, in advanced Dungeons & Dragons, dwarves were returned to being a player character race in the player's handbook. And they're also a monster in the 1977 monster manual. But it's really funny, like when these like races or types of humanoids where the humanoid was also the class, it's really interesting to me. And it reminds me of Freaks and Geeks because there was the scene where Dave Franco ended up rolling up a character and was like, oh, I guess you're going to be a dwarf. He's like, I want to be a dwarf. And he ended up really loving it. But I like his little sculpt. He's got his little hammer with him and his shield. And he has kind of a different build from like the common dwarf we see today. He seems to be a little bit more scaled. Dwarves feel like very stout in like 5e now. And this one feels a little bit more like 2 scale human, just smaller. Okay, let's see what else we got. Ooh, I love this. This is a green slad. So green sladi are surprisingly intelligent. They possess this innate spellcasting ability. Green slad can change its shape to appear as a humanoid. If it was born of a humanoid host, the slad can also adopt its host form. So like, you know, if it was born from like a dwarven, it can appear as that too. Because they essentially are born out of bodies, so it can look like you if it was inside of you earlier and you died from it. At some unpredictable point in its existence, a green slad unlocks the means to magically and instantly and permanently transform itself into a gray slad. Unlocking this knowledge can take years, even decades. Long ago, Primus, the overlord of Modrons, created a gigantic geometrical complex stone imbued with the power of law. He then cast it adrift into limbo, believing that this stone would bring order into the chaos of that plane and halt the spread of chaos to other planes. As the stone's power grew, it became impossible for the creature with ordered minds, such as Modrons and Gazari, to create enclaves in limbo. However, Primus' creation had an unforeseen side effect. The chaotic energy absorbed by the stone spawned the horrors that came to be known as a sladi. Sages refer to the Primus' massive creation as the spawning stone for this reason. The Sladi wiped out every last Modron enclave in Limbo. As creatures of utter chaos, the Sladi loathe Modrons and attack them on sight. Nonetheless, Primus stands by his creation and either doesn't perceive the Sladi as threats or chooses to ignore them, or the fact that he was responsible for this creation of this terrible monster. So Sladi have this horrific cycle of reproduction. They reproduce either by implanting humanoid hosts with eggs or by infecting them with transformative disease called chaos phage. Each color of Slad produces or transforms in a different way, with red Slad spawning blue and green Sladi, and blue Sladi spawning red and green. Each green Slad undergoes a lifelong cycle of transformation into the most powerful gray and death Slad. With each transformation, the Slad retains its memories. These things are no joke. And I love his staff too. Oh, this is great. This is Lemur. This is the Lemur, but this is the 1E version. So this is like the old school one. If you look up online, you can see how close this looks to the actual OG illustration from the first edition monster manual. Oh, cool. Okay, so this is a 1E kobold. Kobolds are like little dragon lizard creatures. They're kind of like I guess they're like the draconic goblin, if you will. I believe originally kobolds were more dog-like. And kobolds were the species of diminutive, weak humanoids who may compensate for their weakness with cunning traps. Like kobolds were all about great traps. And they've been described in a bunch of different ways, a bunch of different editions, but they frequently described as like hairless with red skin. They have, sources describe them somewhat reptilian, somewhat dog-like. But in more recent editions, they are super dog-like. But in like the first editions, you can even find some old illustrations of them, and they're super like dog-like illustrations. They very much look like a dog. And it's funny too, because the 1E version they have here still looks very dragon-like or very reptilian-like. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Okay, we got another pit fiend. We've seen this. What else we got? Another bugbear. Love it. Ooh, a mimic. I love this. This is great. If you're watching this, I don't know how you don't know what a mimic is. They can look like anything they want. You know what I really want to see? I want to know what a mimic looks like in its truest form. But usually mimics just impersonate something, and you can't even tell that they're a mimic until you interact with it, until it reveals itself. And, they shoot out pseudopods, they'll eat you. They're fantastic. I mean, we saw them in the D&D movie. They're like such a classic Dungeons and Dragons monster. I believe mimics made their first appearance in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition in that monster manual in 1977. So it's a really, really early creature in the like Dungeons and Dragons creation. Okay, what else we got here? Ooh, another Gnoll. Okay, let's see. This is the 1E Gnoll. I kind of like this Gnoll a bit more than the new one. I really like it. It has much more of a hyena face, and I kind of like the sculpt and build on this one a lot. The new one has like kind of like this gray look to it, but I really like this 1E version of the Gnoll. All right, let's see what else we got here. Pop, pop. Oh, what? Is this a green Slad as well? Oh my God, it is. Look at that. That's so funny. I'm gonna make sure I'm saying this right, because I heard it and then I
Green Slad.
Slad, whatever. But I love it. He just looks like a little frog guy. Listen, I described to you the slad. Oh gosh.
Green Slad.
I described to you the Slad earlier, and looking at this version, like he doesn't seem as scary. This guy seems like he's like a little guy, but his back, oh my gosh, my guy, that doesn't look good. You got to get that checked out. But he doesn't look as terrifying as the creation of the spawning stone of Primus when you see this version of him. Oh, okay, this looks like a blink dog. Because it's teleporting in. Yep, blink dog. Blink dogs, they take their name from the ability to actually blink in and out of existence. It's a talent that it uses to avoid attacks and to aid in its attacks. They're a fey creature as well. What else? I don't know, like how did they get created? I want to know more about these blink dogs. Let's look it up. The blink dog is a mysterious, intelligent canine. Most blink dogs had yellow, brown fur, large ears, and they are known for their ability to blink. Okay, that's great, but where do they come from? Okay, there's nothing. I'm looking online on the fandom. There's no more details about where they come from. But they have their own language, and they have a hatred of displacer beasts. Blink dogs were a favorite monster of the deities of some deity. Okay, that's not that interesting. Yeah, okay, so listen, if you know more about blink dogs and their creation, please put it in the comments, because I want to know more about these blink dogs. Where they come from? Who made them able to blink? Okay, what else we got? Well, this looks like a goblin. This looks like a 1E goblin? Yeah, it's a 1E goblin. Goblins, they're the small little humanoids. Usually got yellow or green skin. They're part of the goblinoid family with hobgoblins and bugbears. They're just little guys. This is such like a 1E sculpt though, with his like little wooden shield and his little spiked ball. I love it. All right, let's see what else we got. Ooh, this guy kind of looks like a lich. Oh, just another skeleton knight. Oh, but this is the 1E skeleton knight. Remember earlier we saw the skeleton knight that was the Dragonborn. So this is the OG version, which it has that look, just this decrepit face holding a sword. I like how deep the eye pits are too, though. Okay, let's see what else we got. Obviously, this is great. I love it. It's a gold dragon and it's shaped like the Dungeons and Dragons ampersand. That's really cool. And this is the 5E one. No, it's the 1E. Oh, interesting, because I know that the new gold dragons are like kind of the elongated kind and not like the traditional like medieval European style dragon. So this is the 1E. I didn't know that they looked like that in 1E. Yeah, I'm looking at pictures now. So gold dragons, they are the strongest and most majestic of the metallic dragons, obviously because gold, super, powerful. Gold's like the top dog here. And they're considered the apex of the draconic race. Graceful, wise, relentlessly dedicated to being foes of evil, injustice, and foul play. Now, they are respected for their fairness and knowledge. They're also kind of grim and reserved and usually avoid casual contact with other dragons. But again, I think the coolest thing about this is that it looks like the Dungeons and Dragons ampersand. Okay, we got a Githyanki. So the Githyanki, they're this race of astral plane dwellers, survivors of a long enslavement by mind flayers. They became ruthless pillagers and raiders of many worlds of the prime material plane. Like all Gith, the Githyanki were tall, they're slender, the humanoid, they have this rough, leathery, yellow skin and bright black eyes. That were very sunken deep into their orbits, and they have these long angular skulls. Now, because that they were enslaved by the mind flayers for so long, the Githyanki kind of possessed these sonic abilities, and they were capable of minor telekinesis in a similar fashion to the Mage Hand spell. They could also hone their abilities and become capable of innate spellcasting of Jump and Misty Step. And of course, if you played Baldur's Gate 3, you know tons about the Githyanki. Okay, we have another Blink Dog. But this is the 1E version. Listen, it's not as good as the 5E version, but he's a good boy, all right? So I don't like this sculpt as much as I like the 5E version, but he's a good boy regardless. This makes me want a Blink Dog as animal companion. All right, next up, what do we got here? Oh, okay, this is a 5E kobold, and this looks extra reptilian. I said the 1E one does as well, but obviously this one has a really pronounced tail, very clear talons, but still the 1E version looked more reptilian than I kind of thought it would. Okay, what else we got here? Okay, we got another goblin, and this is the 5E one. Really small, nothing too special about this goblin. Okay, so this is another shadow demon, but this is a 1E shadow demon. This is like the, how it originally looked. And not a whole lot has changed, they still look really similar. And then here is the 5E Flail snail. It's a lot bigger, and the shell has a lot more color to it. And you notice that there's not as much black in the flails of its head, but I do like the sculpt on this because they're going in so many different directions, and it's a bit bigger. Okay, lastly, this is great, the classic red dragon. You probably remember this book cover. It's incredibly iconic. I love it. This is a great desk one. I don't know if I'm going to be using this in too many games, but I'm definitely going to have this on my desk or behind me in the shelf of our videos. But I love it. He's got this, it's a really great sculpt. He's got this little gold pile he's on. He's got that kind of derpy face that the dragon had from back then. This was one of the old school, really impactful book covers of Dungeons and Dragons. Hey, I hope you had a great time checking out these unboxings. Let me know in the comments the mini you love the most from the 50th anniversary set. And one lucky commenter will go ahead and win something from our prize pile. Our prize pile is this huge pile we have here at the studio of a bunch of stuff that we give away. You can pick whatever you want from the prize pile. We're going to pick one winner at random from the comments here.